Welcome to this Last Mile Profits video, the last word on the last mile. What was interesting at Parcel+Post Expo in Amsterdam this year? Stay tuned to find out more. Modern Expo provides an integral ecosystem of screen-operated lockers, screenless autonomous solutions, refrigerated lockers, and even personal parcel lockers, powered by in-house developed software. Gary, so this year we didn't quite have Locktoberfest, but I did drink some very good Dutch beer at your stand at Post Expo, or I should say Parcel+Post Expo. For me, it was interesting how the event has developed. Did you have any takeouts from your side?
Yeah, definitely. I think if there were a lot of lockers there last year, there was an enormous amount of lockers there this year. I mean, it's definitely becoming. We've said it before. Lockers' time has come, but the show is also definitely becoming far more focused on final mile activity. Whereas, I mean, as a veteran like yourself, I remember going 20 years ago, and it was all about sortation. And if I spoke to one cardboard box manufacturer, I must have spoken to 100.
Absolutely. So we're going to share a couple of videos anyway, looking at who and what was there and what happened. But for today's summary video cast, I think I agree with you absolutely, Gary. It was all about lockers. Probably the only other group, I would say, of products or product group that was visible were light electric vehicles and cargo bikes. There were a lot of those, and all the ancillary products to that, and of course software. But I think it really is becoming all about lockers and more efficient capacity generating tools, for want of a better word. Was there anything though, Gary, that and I know that you had to leave a little bit early, so other than the fact that you won an award you might want to tell people about, or you, Quadiant, won an award, is there anything else you picked up on?
No, I think, thank you for giving me the opportunity to mention the award again. But yeah, we did. We won it for the DR7 module, which is the unsexy name for our Dropbox printer module that we add to our standard locker range. So we can now basically automate everything that happens in a Pudo at the locker. And I think it kind of illustrates the dichotomy in the locker market. You've got, the sort of low cost, app only, screenless, battery powered, sort of locker light, if you like, at one end of the market. And at the other end of the market, you've got the sort of the more standard lockers with a PC and a screen and thanks to us, I guess, an ever expanding range of peripherals. And they're almost pulling in the opposite direction. I think the pressure is going to be uniting those two worlds.
Absolutely. I think because it really maybe isn't all about lockers, but it's almost all about lockers. At least from my observation, I think that this is the thing, isn't it? The holy grail is to make what I call NextGen lockers, so the battery powered lockers, which are very easy to put in place, which require fewer permissions and much lower cost to implement. But how to get the peripherals onto those devices? Because the quandary is, the device is great, but the more peripherals you put on, you've got an issue with the battery.
Yeah, but I actually think you've already said the answer. So you're talking about the e-bikes and the e-scooters and everything whizzing around at the back of the hall. The battery tech has come on enormously. Since we put our first locker out 12, 14 years ago, the attention paid to that is huge. And the other point is, we've got a printer in our locker. We're not expecting the printer to be unattended for 3, 5, 7 years. We're expecting to have to go back to that printer once a month, maybe more frequently if it's a high usage installation. And by the way, the printer usage on the lockers we put in the UK is already enormous. It's one of the most popular features. So if I'm going back to change the label roll once every 2 to 4 weeks, why do I need my battery to last 7 years? Why not have a swap out chargeable battery that means I can power those peripherals, maybe supported by solar?
Yeah, I think some of the stuff that I saw, so because I really spent a lot of time, and you'll see in the individual films that we'll have from each stand, but there were lockers that actually don't take just solar power, but radiation. So even if there's no sun, you can have clouds and everything, but that was quite cool. So that's one of the things that I quite liked. The other thing is exactly, Gary, what you said, batteries that are not intended to last 8 years, but actually a couple of weeks, enough to power the peripherals. The other one, because it's not just you, I was really against it. We were working with the guys who are producing lockers, Blockhead, who produce lockers for Vinted, and Vinted desperately wanted printers, and I thought, oh no, not printers. But just as you've said, it seems that these things, although theoretically they're a very troublesome peripheral, they can work. So there's a lot of stuff like that. I think things are changing, and lockers are becoming much more universal, even NextGen lockers.
No, absolutely, and I think I think it's probably unfair to say all printers are troublesome. I think if you put a cheap, thermal printer in a locker and stick it outside and hope everything's going to be okay, I think you are going to have trouble. There are lots of considerations, and we went through an exhaustive period of testing before choosing an industrial strength thermal label printer, and we lightly control the temperature of its environment to make sure it works. So it's not a cheap solution, but the alternative, you're pushing the responsibility for the label to somebody else, either for the carrier to bring it along or for the consumer to print it at home. Most people now don't have a printer at home. So there's the label-less parcel, we've said before, doesn't really exist. So somebody has to take responsibility for it, and we've clearly seen it works.
The moral of the story is don't buy cheap peripherals. Get peripherals that actually are going to work, and that's very much the experience that I've seen with Vinted as well. But there's a couple of other things that I saw that were quite cool. So I quite like the pick-to-light lockers. I don't know if you've seen those, Gary, but basically, when you have several people going to locker at the same time, to avoid somebody nabbing your parcel by mistake, it tells you not only where it is on the picture, but you have a light so the blue light is yours, and I don't know, the orange light is mine. They're pretty cool. Have you seen those before?
No, I haven't seen that. That sounds like a really good idea.
So I think it's pretty cool. It's I'll give them a bit of a plug. It's from our buddies at Modern Expo, and Allegro One in Poland use them. I think it's really cool. So that was something that I liked. There's some other cool stuff, and it's a bit on your battery story. It's another one from Allegro One in Poland, whereby you can have battery packs, but not for lockers, but for scooters. So you can swap your scooter battery pack in a locker. That's pretty cool. I saw that.
Yeah, but again, that's going to be an expensive locker to install, because you're now back to needing it to connect to the power. So in my pragmatic mind, I'm now thinking, okay, let's say we invented that, and I'm going to place that in the field. My host location is going to have a pretty chunky electric bill if I put that locker there and I'm charging somebody else's scooter batteries. So it's quite a complicated commercial relationship you need to establish for where those lockers are being located. Love the idea, and I've been approached by the scooter guys before. When I ran the Pudo network in the UK, can we persuade the shopkeepers to be battery swap out points? And they were like, well, yeah, if you absolutely compensate them for every bit of electricity they use, maybe. And then again, we see these horror stories about multiple lithium batteries being located and catching fire. So yeah, I'm not sure I want to be charging those bad boys in the locker. I think using them to power peripherals, using them to give the feature-rich locker experience that people want, without the need for heavy, expensive installation costs, I'm up for that.
I think, this is an interesting story. Let's follow up, because a new team member at Last Mile Experts was the guy who was heavily involved in that project. So we can then take a look, maybe in a year's time, see whether it did work, how it worked, how the issues that you quite correctly mentioned were resolved. So, who's paying for the power? Was there a win-win solution? So that was really cool. I've got to have a plug as well for my buddies at Same Day from Romania, because we demonstrated how you can set up a profitable, dominant nationwide locker network in 3 years. And I have to say, we had, I think, Gary, more people than any other presentation I could see at Post Expo.
It was a very good presentation. There's a lot of effort gone into it, and it did draw a big crowd. I'm just amazed you think that people will still be listening to us in a year's time. They'll be absolutely bored of us by then, no doubt.
Oh, I don't think so, Gary, because what's beautiful about the last mile is things change. Literally, it's like a kaleidoscope of changes. But anyway, listen, because we got carried away. This was such a big topic. I think it's time to close off for today. Please, everyone, If you've got questions or comments, because it was a big event, or if you think we've missed something important, let us know. Thanks for watching this Last Mile Profits video. For more up-to-date last mile news and analysis, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on LinkedIn.